Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality back with you here today to go over something that I saw that is kind of a little bit disturbing to me, so figured to see what you all have to say about this. So I've made mention on a bunch of previous videos that I am Jewish, I am a proud Israel supporter, but at the same time I also happen to be a realist, and that if, things are happening in Israel that they do that are bad, that I have no problem calling that out, as one should. Doesn't mean towing the line every single time with every issue on them. It also doesn't mean, since they're in an ongoing conflict with Palestinians, it doesn't mean crapping on the Palestinians every single time, if, something happens, because not everything is their fault. It goes both ways. But I did think this was a little bit troubling to see something like this a couple weeks ago. That was a headline that says Democrats support Palestinians for Israelis for the first time from a poll. It says many elected Democrats claim to be pro-Israel, but party activists and rank-and-file members are increasingly indifferent and even hostile to the Jewish state. So let's see what the Post Millennial here has to say about this. It says a new poll has found that more Democrats back the Palestinians over Israel in the Middle East conflict for the first time ever, placing the party in opposition with not just Republicans but the U.S. electorate as well. According to a new Gallup poll, 49% of Democrats say that their sympathies are more with Palestinians versus 38% who sympathize more with Israel. 13% said their sympathies were with both sides, neither side, or that they had no opinion. So Democrats' favor of the Palestinians has more than tripled over the past 20 years from a low of 16% in 2003. I think that was around one of the intifadas happening, so that could be why. And the support for the Israelis has tanked from a high of 58% in 2014. And the number of independents who support the Palestinians over the Israelis has increased 21 percentage points to 32% over the previous decade. But the majority, 49%, still support the Israelis, even though the number has dropped 14 percentage points from 2013. So I think what I can probably make about this at this point is the fact that, as we know, Democrats, and I'm talking about specifically ones in government and to probably a lesser or equal degree, just the general Democrats out there in the populace, have been hijacked by leftist thought. And leftist thought sees things in terms of oppression, which isn't always rational. In fact, it's hardly ever rational. So the way these leftists have controlled what's happening, or at least what the Democrats are thinking, is that because they think of everything in terms of oppression, it means that because the Israelis are more prosperous than the Palestinians, which is certainly true, then the Palestinians must somehow be oppressed by the Israelis. Now, the actual truth of the matter is, and you can very easily find this out, so I'm not saying here that's something that anybody can't find out, or I have some secret information that is just not readily available. The truth is that the people keeping the Palestinians down are the Palestinians themselves, specifically their leadership. I mean, they have a guy who's effectively a dictator running everything for them. I mean, the dude is in, like the 18th year of a 4-year term, something like that. And every single bit of aid that's sent over there, which the United States does send aid to the Palestinians, the elite Palestinians just take it for themselves, and they don't, give it to the people to use for things. And there's a lot of stuff going around that Israel's an apartheid state. It is in no way, shape, or form an apartheid state. Okay, there are active political parties in the Knesset, which is Israel's government, like right now. They're Arab parties that their whole purpose is to destroy Israel, and they're allowed a seat at the table. I don't think an apartheid state would allow an opposition party dedicated to its destruction to represent themselves in government. That's just not a thing. Okay, it would be like if we had an actual representation in our Congress, that there's not saying I was gonna say a communist party representation, someone instead of saying having an R or a D next to their name, our representative had like a C for communist, and they would say yes, the United States needs to fall. That was their whole thing. I'm not talking about Bernie Sanders or someone like that. I'm talking about actual dedicated communists that are no, the communists need to take over, the United States needs to fall, stuff like that. Like, that's what these folks are doing, this Arab party over in Israel. So there's just a lot of fiction drummed up about it. But again, it comes back to the whole oppression narrative from the left, which is that they see this dynamic between these two things as one's more prosperous, one isn't, so the prosperous one must be keeping the less prosperous one down, when in reality it's the less prosperous one's leadership that is in fact keeping them down. So let's go ahead and continue on here. It says, over the past 20 years, Republican attitudes towards the conflict have remained consistent, with 78% favoring the Israelis compared to 11% who support the Palestinians. In January 2018, Republican support for the Israelis was at a high of 87% before falling to 76% in 2019, and then bouncing back to 86% in 2020. I'm kind of wondering why that would happen, and then rebound so quickly after a year. Anyway, it says Americans overall support the Jewish state at 54%, but sympathy for the Palestinians is an all-time high of 31%, marking the first time Israel has not had a more than 2-to-1 advantage over the Palestinians among Americans. Should be a period at the end of that sentence, but all right. Generationally, support for Israel is highest among baby boomers with 46%, or 46 points. Generation X with 32 points. It's going down. And the silent generation, those born between 1928 and 1940, at 31 points. Okay, so that would actually be before the baby boomers. It says 42% of millennials support the Palestinians and 40% support Israel. Okay, so pretty much in the same direction. According to Gallup, the poll results are partially due to the polarized political climate, of course. It says Gallup also stated the escalation of Israeli-Palestinian hostilities over the past year, resulting in a high number of Palestinians killed, could partly explain the most recent shift to Democrats' perspective. They're getting killed because they're attacking Jews just for shits and giggles, basically. Okay, they're people that are walking into Israel and killing families. Okay, killing children. Okay, it's happened numerous times. And what happens in retaliation is that the Israelis are the people that are F around and find out. Okay, and so they're basically like, you're going to kill our people, we're going to find the people who did it to you or the organization that takes credit for it, and we're going to annihilate a whole bunch of you. But at the same time, the Israelis also have a thing with letting the Palestinians know ahead of time, like, hey, we're going to bomb this building. You might want to get some people out of there. We're just going to bomb it to get rid of it, which they've done many times. So, just letting you know about that. So scrolling down here, there's also been a greater trend of progressive media covering the side of the Palestinians more favorably than the Israeli position, of course, because again, it's all an oppression narrative. And advocacy for the Palestinians on college campuses, as well as some progressive lawmakers, has also increased. Yeah, I've seen a lot of footage of Jewish speakers go to universities, and they are just shouted down like heckler's veto style by whatever the Palestinian group is. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's something that if I saw it, I'd be like, yeah, that's it. Whatever the local Palestinian group is there, it's really disturbing. You should be able to talk to each other without wanting to tear each other's throats out. So continuing on, it says, but Democrats' weighting religiosity may be a factor in the longer-term trend. Sympathy for Israel has historically been highly correlated with religion, and those attending religious services weekly being much more sympathetic to the Israelis than those who seldom or never attend. So yeah, we know Republicans as a whole are more religious than Democrats. Democrats tend to be more secular, so that makes 100% sense to me. It says Republican Jewish Coalition CEO Matt Brooks said in a statement, "This is an extremely troubling trend. I agree. Many elected Democrats claim to be pro-Israel, but party activists and rank-and-file members are increasingly indifferent and even hostile to the Jewish state. It's long past time for Democratic leaders to admit they have a problem that must be addressed to restore the historic bipartisan support for Israel." He is 100% right. That is the end of the article. So the last thing I'm going to say about this is, if we just saw this recently, what happened, that there were a couple of German tourists who basically made a wrong turn and in their car and ended up in Palestinian territory and were almost murdered because I think the rental car had Israeli plates on it. Okay. And they were almost murdered for that. I don't think they were even Jewish. They were just German tourists who, made a boo-boo, and they were almost just basically killed on the street just for being there. Okay. Now, if you or me, American friends, or basically anybody else was to make the same mistake, you're probably going to end up dead if you end up in there. Okay, even if your car doesn't have Israeli plates, even if it had some plates of some other country, you'll probably end up dead. Now, if those same Palestinians were to end up in Israel, you want to know what would happen to them? Not a thing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing would happen to them. Okay? If they were just to go in there and start walking around just to walk around, nothing would happen to them. Okay? So you tell me which state is the one that... You tell me which one's the oppressor and the oppressed. Even though the Palestinians seem to have less money or anything like that, they seem to be the ones that are always poking at the bear. Okay? And when the bear finally swipes back, it seems like progressives back up and go, why are you doing that? Why did you swing at us? Why, we don't understand. And it's like, guys, like you're sitting here, you're hitting the bear with a stick. Okay. And when the bear did its thing, like, you can't be surprised by that. Okay. So, get your shit together, to be quite frank about it, and start figuring out that this is, you guys, your support for Israel has to go up. Okay, we need that bipartisan support back. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. They're one of our closest allies. We need them around, and that's just the bottom line. So let me know what you think about this. Leave a comment below, like, share, subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.